Familiar spot. We're just about to get into the Raptors and the Celtics here in a second. The champs minus Kawhi, obviously, down 2-0 after Boston wins on Tuesday. Marcus Smart had 5 triples in the fourth. Who just says he's a stalwart defender? He can make it happen when they need to. Celtics 102-99. The other Eastern Conference semifinal series will resume tonight on ESPN. Heat in the Bucks with Miami, as you know, up 1-0. That'll be at 6:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, followed by Game 7, Rockets Thunder at 9 p.m. Eastern. Hoopheads settle in for a big night on ESPN. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. We're back inside the South Street Seaport studio. Keyshawn Johnson, Jay Williams, Zubin Mehenti with you. Straight up, Jay, bottom line, Pascal Siakam won the NBA's Most Improved Player award. He was actually playing so well the next year, there was some talk that he could win it again. Nobody's actually won that award 2 years in a row, but it just goes to show where his game was headed. Now, everything kind of runs through him, and since they've gotten to the bubble, Nick Nurse has kind of said it himself, Pascal Siakam has not been the same player, and as a result, the Boston Celtics, who have one more championship than Keys Lakers, look like they might be halfway home easy to the Eastern Conference Finals, a place this franchise has been many, many times before.
It's simple. Pascal Siakam is not Kawhi Leonard. And Pascal Siakam is incredibly talented, but when you watch Kawhi Leonard play, everything looks poised. Everything looks composed. His posture on the court, the way he goes up and down. When I watch Pascal Siakam play, especially now in the playoffs, it just seems like he's constantly rushed. He's playing faster. He's playing at a really fast speed that doesn't look composed. And now, granted, Jaylen Brown is his primary defender, and Jaylen Brown, I think, is one of the best two-way players in the NBA. And if you're asking me, who am I taking, Jaylen Brown or Pascal Siakam? I'm taking Jaylen Brown because I think he always plays under control. I think he's best on both ends. But Pascal Siakam just doesn't seem like he has that smoothness, that it still seems very rugged. It seems like a rough surface, and he hasn't had the pressure of him being the guy on this stage yet, and we're watching how it affects you ultimately. Now, granted, Toronto's not making shots. They're not playing well defensively, but Boston just looks like a team that's poised to get to the Eastern Conference Finals.
And Boston makes them play that way, though. I mean, it's Boston putting the pressure on Toronto. Much like you said, it seems like Siakam's game is rushed, but that's because the way Boston's style of play.
Pascal, he was playing that way against Brooklyn. I mean, he only had one game where he shot over 43% from the field. Only one game. So it just doesn't look like he has the poise to be that dominant player in the playoffs. And maybe he's just having a bad run. I'm not saying he can't do it. But ultimately, if we expected him to be like a Kawhi Leonard from last year, I'm not saying you can't be Kawhi Leonard. But you still have to live up to expectations, especially if people are talking about Toronto being a team getting to the NBA Finals.
Well, I think we got ahead of ourselves in terms of Toronto getting to the NBA Finals, right? We obviously figured that they would probably meet up with Milwaukee, but now Miami's up 1-0 on them. But when you look at Toronto, again, like I was saying, you play to the tempo of your opponent. Now, whether it was Brooklyn or whether it's Boston, and not just him feeling like it's rushed, the entire team feels like they're being rushed. Much like you said, they're rushing shots, they're missing shots, they're not playing great defense. So the pressure is being put on them by the Celtics.
I want to ask you guys one thing. I'm going to ask Charles Barkley when he comes on this morning at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And yes, Charles Barkley making his first of hopefully many appearances with us on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. And this is one thing that hasn't been talked about, and it's totally apropos. I think Brad Stevens is like the Kawhi of coaches, right? Quiet, reserved. You have to think about him being there. But Jay, I mean, you cover this league 24/7, 365. We talk about Nick Nurse. He's the coach of the year. We talk about Mike D'Antoni. Maybe tonight his final game as the Rockets head coach. We talk about Mike Budenholzer. We talk about Frank Vogel. Does he have it? We don't ever talk about Brad Stevens and the work that he has done with the Celtics at this point, with this great nucleus minus Hayward, with all the draft picks still there. Quickly, your thoughts on what Brad Stevens has done, getting absolutely no shine here.
Well, I mean, think about what Brad Stevens has gone through the last couple of years. I mean, he was one of the darlings of the NBA a couple of years ago, and then the Kyrie Irving situation happened.
Right.
And then you quickly saw it. All right, well, he's great at X's and O's, but the question is around.
Can he manage?
Can he manage personalities, strong personalities? But that was a Kyrie personality as well, right?
Unique.
Which is extremely unique. Yes, it's a great way to categorize it. Right. So then you remove Kyrie from the situation, you insert Kemba. You see the camaraderie, the chemistry. Jason Tatum has exploded. Kemba actually gives a lot more hockey assist. And I will say this, because we'll talk about this more today. Marcus Smart just makes winning plays for this team all the time. He made some winning plays from the offensive perspective last night, knocking down threes, but defensively, that grit, that grind, that mentality that he brings every single day, that's a winning mentality.
No doubt about it. 5 threes in the fourth, plus that defensive presence that he always brings. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. Still to come, a Hail Mary from the 1-yard line from the nation's first fan. Although, are we going 99 yards in one direction or 36 inches in the other? We'll get to that with our Paul Feinbaum college football Big Ten talk on the way after Jay tells you about our friends at Shell.
No mas. This is Jamal Murray's team.
Wow.
This is Conley for the win. Oh, and circled the rim, no good. And the Denver Nuggets come back from down 3 games to 1.
Whoever packed the bags, unpacked the bags. Whoever wasn't a believer, the Nuggets down 3-1. We're still here, and we got a big task Thursday against the Clippers.
I can root for an LA team like the Clippers.
Keyshawn.
That's what I'm saying.
Johnson, stop it.
We don't want you to stop it. We want you to keep it going. Good Wednesday morning, and it certainly is in the Mile High City. What a win for the Denver Nuggets. Keyshawn, Jay, Will, and Zubin. We're in New York City where the sun is yet to come up. If you're watching us on ESPN News right now, it's a little dark here in lower Manhattan, but it's going to be a bright and sunny day in the NBA. We got another Game 7 coming up tonight, fellas. So the first thing I want to get to, before we kind of get to your thoughts on watching the game, just think about this for a second. We're presented by Progressive Insurance, and all of our guests appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, including the great Doris Burke, DB at 8:10 a.m. Eastern to talk hoops. But I want to talk hoops with the fellas. We saw Lillard go off, Jay, for 61 in the bubble. We saw the Raptors score 150 points in a playoff game, including 100 coming from their bench. We saw your guy, Jamal Murray, go for 33 in the second half of a playoff game last week. So it's been an offensive bubble. It's an offensive league. And suddenly we get the lowest scoring playoff game in 6 years, 80-78 when it counted the most. What do you make of the yin to yang to getting all these points and then scratching to try to get 80?
Very similar to March Madness for the NBA bubble right now. Survive and advance. That's what it's all about. Survive and advance. It was an ugly game last night. The last couple of possessions, I felt like I was watching a 5th or 6th grade team. Donovan Mitchell turns the ball over. Then Jamal Murray pushed the ball, even though they have a 2-point lead, and passes the ball up on a fast break instead of pulling the ball out. Torrey Craig misses a layup. Then all of a sudden, Mike Conley gets the ball back off a rebound from Rudy Gobert. Doesn't see Donovan Mitchell, who's wide open, who, of course, you want Donovan Mitchell to take that shot as a Utah Jazz fan. Conley shoots the ball rolls around the rim. Just I was in a case of emotion last night watching that last final couple of possessions, Key.
I think when you, like you were saying, it's almost like March Madness to a degree. When you look at the situation, they haven't been in this position before, and they're just trying to survive. So that clock in your head, it speeds up. You almost go into like a panic mode when you have plenty of time to pass the ball and do other things with it, but you go into panic, and sometimes pressure busts a pipe.
We both felt that we saw 2 superheroes take their capes off or take off the cloth over their head, right? Like they were human last night. They weren't superheroes last night. They were human. And I think seeing that and watching that battle, them fight through not having those superpowers to enhance their play, really made it seem more substance and value worth.
Think about 6 games, though, of that. Right? You use up all that energy and that stress over 6 games. Everything that's gone on from leaving the bubble, not leaving the bubble, but basically boycotting, right, then trying to figure out where the season is going to go, playing your hearts out, coming back from 3-1. By the time you get to the 7th game, you have no legs. I mean, they was missing easy layups at the cup. You tell me you're a basketball player. Is that legs?
That's all legs.
That's finish. You got to finish. Easy jumpers that you may have hit in game 5, 3, 4, 5 is difficult to hit in 7 because it's heavy on you.
And Key, the best part about the whole game for me was the post-game presser where Jamal Murray was talking to Scott Van Pelt. And Scott Van Pelt alluded to, hey, quick turnaround. You guys play the Clippers on Thursday. And he was like, wait, you mean tomorrow? Like his face, he was like, hold on a second. You mean tomorrow? Like that he couldn't even fathom that you had one day off after having that mental exhaustion of the games that he just had with Donovan Mitchell, that now you have to turn around and face a team that has